in there for quite a while. Hi, Lynn.
I don't think we have video tonight, right?
We do?
We do.
Supposed to. Why is it not?
I thought in the email that you sent out, it said it was just gonna be audio, no video.
Oh, I think that was for.
That was for people dialing in, right? Or, yeah, that's what that was.
All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Tonight, Tuesday, December 21st, 2023. This is the Park and Forestry Board. We'll call the meeting to order and look for a motion on the consent calendar, which is approval of the agenda and the approval of the minutes from the August 29th meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda and the minutes from August 29th.
First by Shauna,
I second.
second by Allison, and a third by Lynn. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same motion. Carries unanimously. That'll take us to item number 3, which is the Park Superintendent Report. We'll turn it over to Cody.
All right, since our last meeting in August, we've done quite a bit of stuff in the parks. We've winterized all the park shelters, all the fields winterized. Since then, the new playground has been finished and completed at the city park. I don't know if you guys have been able to see it. Look it out, turned out pretty darn good. It looks nice, see a lot of kids on it. The other piece of the playground, one slide was broke. That is on its way, so that'll be replaced here soon. When that gets here, we'll put that in, so that'll be done. We've started remodeling one of the stock shelter bathrooms. The old partitions were there originally, so they're 27 years old. So we got new ones coming. They're all plastic, a lot better on graffiti. So they'll be placed here the next week or so when they show up, and that'll be done. The woodland shelter, we painted all the floors. They're all brand new looking floors. So next spring when they're opened up, they're going to look a lot different. Other improvements, we've just been cleaning up leaves, all we've been doing the last 2 months. Finally, the trees have stopped dropping the leaves, so the guys have been finishing up on that. Doing some improvements on some ball fields, some winter maintenance. This nice weather has allowed us to do quite a few things since we don't have to move snow. So the guys have been busy. You probably see them out and about. We got the Main Street all done. All the bushes have been trimmed, cleaned out, so those are ready for the winter time. And yeah, the fountain's been taken out of the pond. I don't know if you've seen that or not. That's been gone. And so yeah, everything is ready for the winter time. And hopefully next spring we're fired right back up and ready to roll again. Anything else? Have questions on about the parks or anything in the last 3 months?
Hopefully we'll be putting up the ice skating rink here. Again, it's always weather dependent. We put that up in the basketball court because it has the lights on it. That's a kit that we bought, I don't know how many years it's been now, Cody.
Yeah, it's probably been 5-6 years ago. And then last year we bought a new liner. Of course, over time, the liners get little leaks in them. So we put it up last year. It was going great. And we got a ton of snow, and then they broke one side out. Then the water kind of froze. And so last year was would have been a great year. And then it kind of got wrecked. So hopefully this year when we put it up, Mother Nature cooperates, get some cold weather, and But well, yeah, when it's up, it works pretty good. I mean, a lot of kids there with the lights. It works really well. Just gotta let Mother Nature cooperate.
Certainly we'll, should be able to make ice here in short order, maybe in a day or so. And then just for those people who are viewing online, we do have the skate rentals through the community center too. So good program, another thing that we can do for our citizens, and hopefully people can take advantage of it and the weather will cooperate.
I noticed in the main park, the new addition, kids are really liking that. They're really using it a lot.
The swing,
Yeah.
yeah, that was, that turned out really, really nice. It fit in there really well. You know, probably maybe one of the only downsides was the old, I guess we called it, you know, used to call it the band shelter, the concrete stage in there, but it probably about 5 years or so ago, it really quit getting used. They used to have bands down there play, but now they play at the rally point. It's just a better place for them, so we don't see it being used near as much. So hopefully the addition of that glider swing will be a positive thing and not a detriment to any one of the organizations down there. But yeah, the guys did a great job. The parks crews installed all of that. We did hire Todd Mines to help us with the concrete. But other than that, the parks crews did all the install and assembled that and prepped everything and hauled in the engineered chips and all of that. So good job on that.
I was just gonna ask her, wasn't it last year that the skate park was, the ice skating rink was vandalized?
Well, and it wasn't so much vandalized as when the warmer temperatures, there was a period where we had warmer temperatures, and they kicked down the one side of it, and so the water came down the side of it. I mean, it's like think about a swimming pool in your backyard, and once you get the water taking it down, and then it froze, so then we could never undo it and get it set back up right. We really had to let it completely thaw out 100%. So hopefully that doesn't happen again this year. And I don't know, I mean, it wasn't that they didn't damage it. We were able to put it back up. It just, we couldn't do it because it had already refroze. And once it was frozen, we couldn't get that side back up and then to stay up where it would hold water. So hopefully, like I said, this year, if we get good ice made right away and then the weather stays fairly cool. Part of the problem, like Cody said, we got that big snow and it basically acts as a blanket and insulates it. And we ended up with a lot of slush and down below. So it's always, you know, unlike, you know, when everybody talks about, you know, going to Rapid City or up to Deadwood on the glice, it's not real ice, it's plastic. You know, Rapid City, of course, has a glycol system where they refrigerate it and keep it frozen. We really, truly have to rely on Mother Nature, and as funny as it sounds, it can be 20 degrees out, and the sun, the radiation will still melt. That's why we can get temperatures that cold, and when we plow streets and stuff, it still melts because the sun radiates. It will do the same thing to the ice rink. So it really does it's a matter of how cold it stays. But hopefully we have a good year and we're able to use it. We've had several good years where it was used, and we've never necessarily had any trouble with it. You know, when we do, or if the temperatures do change, we got to keep a better eye on it, and we can lock it up, you know, so that we don't run into those problems. That just happened over a weekend. And that's why it then refroze before we noticed it, and at that time it was just too late to get it back up. So, yeah, we'll keep a better eye on that.
It seems like that park, we kind of have more issues with like vandalization, and I know I was talking with Anna Grams, and her son uses the skate park a lot, and he sent me some pictures of, I guess, sand from maybe the volleyball down there being, he said that, you know, basically kind of vandalizing and taking the sand out of the volleyball and putting it on the skate park. And, you know, he tried to tell him to stop and whatever else. But I know at one time there was some discussion about maybe putting some cameras up Or is there a way that like on the community center, we could add, some exterior cameras that might reach that area?
We can, I mean, cameras aren't necessarily the end-all, solve-all either, and to have a camera system that's robust enough, it's not simply just having cameras, you gotta have the server and the network to back it to be able to record, we like to have at least 30 days, prefer 60 days of storage. And that's a very expensive system to be able to do that. So that you can go back and again, you gotta have a camera system where you can identify who, what, when, where. So it's not always just a solution of, hey, we'll throw up cameras and we'll catch all this. You still have to have some elements there to be able to get something done. And then you've gotta have, something that's a chargeable offense as well. So, yeah, Justin.
Cameras, you've got an elaborate camera system on your store. I can give you some prices, but I can watch things on my phone that's motion detected. So I get an instant email or text saying, hey, somebody's doing something weird. You could have some volunteer people volunteer on their phone, just the cameras. And I don't know what the, we're a private company that bought the surveillance system.
Something we can look into. I mean, certainly, having that kind of a system in a park is, I mean, your phone would go crazy. But we'll work with the police department. I mean, it's not just necessarily a parks. I mean, we talk about, adding on to the city system, whether it be the system we run here or the community center system. And we need to get the, Jody and his guys involved and figure that out. I'm pretty certain he doesn't want to.
Dispatch have a big screen room, a bunch of
I don't know. I don't have anything to do, so I can't answer. I mean, I don't know what dispatch does have and what they don't have. But food for thought, absolutely. But I guess the point being is cameras aren't always the.
Right.
I
It's just-
mean, they're not the bulletproof.
It's just unfortunate when the city and the city employees work really hard on that and on, unsupervised children, go and ruin things that cost thousands of dollars. So
Right.
it's just, I think it's just maybe should be brought to some attention and that's about it.
Anything else with the parks?
We'll move into item number 5, which is the Public Works Director report. I don't have a lot to report on. I guess one of the biggest items I've been working on here recently is working with the school district approach the city about doing some conversion of our parks properties. Some of our properties are contained within the land, water, and conservation program that's administered by the National Park Service. And I know the council approved the contract to do the Yellow Book appraisals on them the other night, and I wanted to touch base with the board on that, on exactly what we're doing and why we're doing it. What we're looking at doing, the Meade School District approached the city about becoming the owner of Woodall Field. Of course, you know that the city owns the property. The school owns all the improvements on it. They would like to be the owners of the property, and I guess from a city standpoint, we don't see that that's a detriment or a bad thing. It's always going to be a football field. I mean, the football field is not going away. It's not going to be apartments. It's not going to be housing. They want to make some large-scale, more improvements into that facility. And again, it's hard it'd be like renting a house and then, adding on a $200,000 addition. That doesn't make any sense if you don't own the property. So they approached the city and we said, yeah, we're willing to look at that. Because it's a part of that program, we have to do some steps through the Game Fish and Parks and the National Park Service, which they call as a conversion. What that means is we have to take and identify that property there, we have to have it appraised, and we have to identify another property that is of equal size, of equal value, and has a similar ability of use. So we can't, for example, we couldn't take that particular piece of property and say, hey, we're gonna do a conversion on the city water dams, because that would never be able to be used as a football field or as a park or something of like. So it's gotta be comparable properties, and again, it's gotta be the same value, it's gotta be the same value, and it's gotta be the same size or greater. So for example, if that appraisal would come back at $100 acre, then and the conversion property we're looking at comes back at $200 an acre, we still have to have the same minimum acreage that we're converting. But we would have, I guess if it were the other way, we could end up with less because it has a higher value. So we're doing that, and the other property they approached us about is a portion of the fairgrounds. They would like, and I don't recall off the top of my head, it was down the road a ways. They would like to make a addition or a new school. So we've been talking with them, and we've had some work sessions with them. We felt that it probably made more sense to have that piece of property separated. At one point in time, they were looking at, okay, we would just connect it, and we'd have to relocate some ball fields and this and that. Through the process, we looked at, well, we have already got some traffic problems up there. So maybe by moving it, and if we move it clear down to the north end of the fairgrounds, closer to the softball fields, we could alleviate some of that, because we could have a separate entrance, we have a separate parking lot, we could take some of the traffic that's up there already and move it and relocate it down. Ballpark Road is big enough that it can handle that. And if we get enough separation on that, it makes a lot of sense. Some of the other things that we can do is then we can do like we did with the baseball fields, and we can have a joint or a shared use parking lot, which again benefits everybody, because we can have a nice hard surface parking lot that the school uses during school time activities, and then when school's out, after school or in the summer, it can be used by the softball facilities as a nice parking lot. So in that, it makes a lot of sense, and that's basically what we're looking at doing. It's not a guarantee. We have to go through the steps, and it ultimately has to be approved by the National Park Service. We're just taking the first initial steps to get that done. And again, the school wants to continue to work on their plans of having designs done on the building and facilities, and do some long-range planning and funding. So it's not something that we can put off and say, well, come back to us a year before you're ready to build it. Excuse me. So we're doing it now in preparation of that.
So I have a couple questions. So if
Sure.
the city owns the Whittle Field now, and then the school district would own it,
We
then,
would plat out just the facility.
right, so it's open to the public now, so then this school would take over, so they could potentially lock it then?
No, we would include that in as a restriction on the property, that it would have to remain. And we have an agreement with them right now. Excuse me, I'm sorry. We have a use agreement with them now, and all of that same stuff is stipulated in there, that when the school has the first right to it, of course, if they have a football game or a track game or whatever event they have going, but when they don't have events going, then it is open up to the public, where they can go walk on the track and this and that, and we share the cost of the maintenance on the parking lot. All of that same stuff would remain. So there really wouldn't be a change in the use of it, and the school has no intentions, or so they've said that, why would they want to lock it down or have it any different? They just want to be the owner of it, which makes a lot of sense from a liability standpoint.
And then the school, as far as the fairgrounds, this talk has been going on for a couple of years. They were originally wanting the southern part. Now you're saying they want the northern part?
That's what we're looking at right now, and that's what when we first started talking, they came with 3 different options, and that was the chosen option.
So you have the softball fields down there, right? So then that would stay or go or
The softball fields?
Yeah.
Would stay, yes.
would stay? So then what part are they taking out then?
They're not taking any part out. What part would they use?
Yeah,
Would be the north part of the fairgrounds, not the softball fields are not a part of the fairgrounds.
right, I know that. But so we have the big circle,
Right.
so a chunk of that would go.
On the very north end, yes.
Huh.
Basically, the entrance would be where the entrance is right now by the grandstands, that approach in there, that would basically, plus or minus 50, 75 feet would be the same access point.
And so originally they wanted the southern side and that would have kept the circle intact. But what was the motivation to change that?
Again, thinking through it and not trying to create more traffic problems. The cost to relocate, if they took the southern, they would have to relocate all of the Little League fields. Doing this, they wouldn't have to. I mean, that's a huge significant cost right there.
Well, because I think originally they wanted like 3 acres, so they must be wanting more than that now.
Yeah, we haven't got into acres and size. We're, again, just starting the process.
They must have some idea if they know which side they want to choose. I mean, they have an idea.
Well, I'm sure they do.
And then I guess, how does that process go then? Who decides? Is that a city vote? Is that a school board vote? How's that work?
I guess I'm not following your question.
The question is who decides what portion of the fairgrounds the city sells? And then for work out.
So I think that there's not a clear one-person answer on that. I think it's a cooperation between the city council, between the school board, between the game fish and parks, between the national park service. I mean, there's a lot of people that have to agree and sign off on it in order for it to happen. Part of the reason for the Yellow Book appraisal is they have to pay the appraised price for the property. The school fully understands that. But none of that, I mean, nothing, we're getting way far out from where we're at right now. I mean, none of that's been determined. We're probably 190 days away from, or 180 days away from having the Yellow Book appraisal done, and that's one of the first steps. That will really tell us what the best and highest use is and what that price should be. Is there still some time? I mean, this is not all a done deal, I guess is what I'm saying, and there's a lot of parts and pieces. The school board would have to agree, the city council would have to agree, the parks, the Game Fish and Parks, Randy Kittle has to agree, has to get sent to the National Park Service, and they have to agree in order for all of it to happen.
And then does the city have a plan for what they do with the remainder of the land?
No. I mean, there's been discussion, of course, but there's no formal plan. I think at this point in time, there's just some ideas being thrown out there. I think that, again, it probably doing it this way helps to solidify that it would be some kind of recreational use. I don't know whether that would be soccer fields, whether that would be more baseball fields, maybe it would be a field house. I mean, there's a lot of different things. But it would be some sort of recreational use. Again, with that portion of it, the remainder would still be a part of the LWCF program. It has to be used for recreation. It can't be used in order to use it for any other use, you have to go through the conversion process. We're not doing the conversion on the entire piece, only the small identified pieces. The same with the Woodle Field. The Woodle Field sits on 2 big lots that encompass all the way down to the east end of the soccer fields and all the way to the west end up by Junction Avenue or the Frisbee, we're only taking out a very, very small piece, so the remainder of that is all still in that program, and we still have to abide by all of those requirements. So it can't be used for something different than that purpose. The other thing that we have to do, once we identify those conversion properties, the ones that we're gonna trade acre for acre on, is we have to come up with a plan. At that point in time, you know, we'll be looking for some recommendations from the park board on what should that be. Should that be a park? Should that be a trailhead? Should that be a sports facility? I mean, those are the things that, again, are forthcoming. Those are probably, you know, those could be maybe a year away from now, maybe even more before we get to that point. I mean, this is not a short process. It's a long term. And again, it's not like nobody is saying the school is going to start building a new school in 2024, 25. I mean, we're talking, you know, possibly 2030. So it's some long range planning and some long range ideas. Once we do get that plan put together, again, then that has to get submitted to the National Park Service, and then we have 3 years to implement it. So if we come up and say that we're gonna build X, Y, and Z, we, the city, have 3 years to complete that in order to be in compliance with that program. So there's gotta be a lot of thought put into it, a lot of budgeting, and, you know, it's gotta be a solid idea that we can actually implement.
Is soccer a sanctioned, it's a school sanctioned sport,
It
isn't it?
is.
So then if they built soccer fields up there, would the city build them or would the school build them?
Could be both. I mean, could be one or the other, or it could be a partnership. You know, the school is wanting to make improvements to the Woodle Field. One of them that they've considered is turf. That being one of the reasons, so that they can use it more often and for more sports. You know, the South Dakota High School Activities Association sanctioned soccer, they sanctioned softball, so they've sanctioned some sports that we didn't traditionally have. We haven't worked through all of the, you know, some of those are they're brand new that are just going into place now, and when they sanctioned those, it wasn't that it started immediately. There was a process of a term of years to get it completely brought underneath of the umbrella of the school. So even like for softball and I mean, they have agreements and deals with the club or the I guess it's just the club association to transition that over. The school didn't take it on all 100%. I mean, you know what I'm saying? They made a deal with the softball association and the coaches to, hey, you know, we'll transition this over a period of 3 years. We're going to use your facilities. We'll use your coaches, some of that. So
Because hypothetically, if they want the football fields turfed and the city owns it right now, the city would have to pay for it, correct?
not necessarily. I mean, look at the improvements that have been done down there now. I mean, when I was a kid, and I'm not trying to date anybody, but you know, that thing was gravel. You know, it wasn't until the Smiths
Right.
made a generous donation, and we, you know, so again, there's been a lot of money invested into that facility. I think that sometimes we take it for granted. We don't realize how nice of a facility it is. But when you talk to people that come from all over the state and come out, I mean, we really have a spectacle down there with the cliff line and being down in the park there, something that not a lot of other communities do have. So again, when you look at putting in the investment to make those upgrades, be the owner, and sometimes you have to be the owner. I mean, if you're going to, again, I'll use an example. You know, if you're going to build onto your house and you're renting it, the bank's not going to give you a loan to do that because you don't have the collateral in the property. You know, you run into some problems with insurance as well, being able to insure those improvements if you're not the owner. You know, if the city were to retain the ownership of the football fields and something would happen, and you know, honestly, the check would come to I mean,
If it's
it can
flooded.
be problematic. So it just, again, it makes sense. There's nothing more to it. There's nothing underhanded or nothing more. It's just, it makes sense for them to own it if they're gonna have that kind of investment. So that's all that it's about. And sometimes often, people try and read too much into it, but that honestly is what the discussion has been.
When do you expect the school district to propose the plans for the potential expansion in that area?
You would have to ask them. I mean, I don't know. I know they had some concepts. I don't know if they've again, they just asked if the city was willing so that they could continue to move forward. I don't know. I mean, I would have to defer you to the superintendent and, I mean, give him a call and ask him and what the long-range plan is. They would be the ones that have to tell you. I simply don't know. Moving on, we'll move into the old business. Just an update on the cemetery scatter garden. I forgot I had some slides here. Sorry. We talked about the scatter garden at the last meeting. We're still moving forward with that. We've got it basically kind of roughed in and a pretty good idea of where we need to do this. Just a reminder, and for those again online that maybe didn't hear the first presentation, basically a scatter garden is a place for you to spread the ashes of your loved one if you don't want to buy a physical plot. It gives you a place to celebrate and reflect. Currently, South Dakota does not have any laws on scattering the remains of people. You're able to do that right now wherever you want. Our cemetery, our ordinance does not allow it, so we're looking at making those changes and what the rules should be. For example, if we're going to have an open scatter garden, we're probably going to have a rule on the placement of things such as flowers and ornaments, and those are more items that are usually placed on a plot that you buy. They're not in an open space. So those are things that we're thinking about. One of the things, and we don't need to decide it tonight, but maybe I would like you guys to start thinking about it. Some of the things that we have to determine is how we're going to organize it and keep track of who's there. I mean, that's one of the purposes of it is it gives people, families, a place to place their loved ones, and for decades and decades and centuries and families on, you would be able to go back and go, hey, Aunt Martha was scattered. We know she's here. We got to be able to memorialize that. And so one of the things that we're thinking about is, do we want to do it like a, kind of up on the top right hand, more of a traditional, like what we have, a directory of the lots and plots like we have now, or would we want to do some kind of a monument, both on the left and on the bottom, or more of a monument where you would be able to place more of a plaque on there and kind of have their name and the date of birth and the date of death, maybe a small saying or something like that. So we need to make a decision at some point in time on that. I mean, again, looking at those, you can probably tell that there's a pretty significant cost difference in what we would decide to do if we were going to go with some kind of a big granite stone. And and that leads me into the next part, is we would have to come up with a cost. One of the benefits or people wanting to do this is that it is a lesser of a cost and lesser of a burden for the family to undertake. So it has to be a reasonable cost, but we still have to be able to accommodate, keeping it nice and keeping everything maintained. So those are some things that I want you guys to think about and come up with some ideas on coming up with a directory, what we want to do, and then a cost. The rules we'll hopefully have for you by the next meeting, and then we'll be looking at, I'm sure we'll get the city attorney down here to give you a summary on the changes to the ordinance that will have to be made. We'll have to have a first and a second reading on those ordinances. We will be looking for a recommendation from the park board to make that recommendation to the council, and then we have to have a first reading, a second reading, and then so many days after that, they would go into effect. So again, we're not looking at something that's gonna happen a week from now, 2 weeks. It is a process, but we've been talking about this for quite a while, and we've had a lot of requests for this, and we're seeing more and more cremains than we are full body burials, so.
Would there be a way to also have like an online version, maybe like on the city site or like the library or something where they could, also have the loved one's name and then, maybe more of a obituary type thing where people could,
Possibly, yeah. I mean, we keep that now. I mean, they can come to the city and find out. I mean, we do have it electronic. We could possibly, it's just bandwidth and computers and servers and, to do that. But it is something that we could do. We haven't really looked into doing that and haven't had a request for it. Seems, sometimes we try to keep it simple, and if it's not broke, let's not try and fix it. But
someday
Yeah.
you could have a touch screen there. Honestly, you bring it up and all that stuff.
right. Somehow it would have to be connected to a computer in order to
Well,
do
even
it.
if they accessed it, originally, even if they access it just on the city website now, but I'm saying forward thinking, the granite nameplate is probably going to be, changed at some point. Maybe not in next 10 years, but,
Right.
there should be some sort of electronic record.
Well, there would be City Hall, by law, the finance office
Right,
has to
but
keep a record.
I'm saying if there was
so-
even if you can just build it out a little bit on the website originally and then something electronically that over the next couple generations that people can build on.
Yeah. It's something to look into. We would have to be careful we don't offer it. That's where I would see it going, is if we offered it for the scatter garden, then it's gonna be like, well, how come you don't have it for the whole cemetery?
But, if you paid a fee for it, it might be worth it,
Could be.
not to sound like
There's-
whatever, but how often do we really go to the funeral? How often do we actually really go to a cemetery? A
Right.
lot. People are electronically driven now.
There's a lot of people that go to the cemetery.
I don't.
Yeah, you would be surprised. So anyways, yeah, if you guys would start to think about that, if you have any questions or ideas, email me, or hopefully, like I said, at the next meeting, we can kind of put more of a solid plan together. At some point in time, maybe this spring, we should probably plan on one of our meetings to be more of a field trip meeting, and we can go look at various parks and projects and things like that, versus sitting in here and trying to look at them because it really is the spot that we've chosen is a really nice, tranquil spot that overlooks Bear Butte, and could be a really nice addition. Next up is Forest Service update. Of course, they did start the Topaz portion of the Chimera fuel reduction project. That started November 6th. So basically all of that's outlined in yellow is currently closed to public access. They have brought in 4 different teams of loggers. instead of just one. I mean, traditionally, these projects would, the contracts are let in a manner where they have 5 years to complete them. This one, because of the tethered logging and the fuel reductions, these loggers came from the Pacific Northwest and they want to get in and get out. So they brought in multiple teams and their hopes are weather dependent and everything. They would like to be finished by February. So they've got a lot of people, a lot of different crews going up there. That's why they did a full closure of the entire area, was for safety so that they could get in there and get it done. So that's what we're hoping for. I'm going to try and attend a site visit next week, and I'll have some more information. Again, this is a logging procedure. This tethered logging has not been done in the northern Black Hills, in the Black Hills at all. So I'm hoping to go up and kind of get a firsthand see of it, and I'll snap some pictures and be able to report back to you guys
What,
how it's going.
what's the definition of it, tethered? I don't,
So the machines are tethered by basically a winch, and they can operate on really steep. So the parts of the forest that they're trying to get are these areas that have been too steep to traditionally log. So they're using a tethered logging mechanism where they tie them off and they run up and down the slopes on a winch system. They're able to get it, get in, get out, and then they're doing a lot of mastification of the limbs, and there should be less piles, and trying to do a reduction of the fuels, which is some of the scrub oaks. And so when it's all said and done, it should be a really nice, clean floor that enables, grasses to grow up through, and the tree spacing will allow the appropriate sunlight down through, so you'll end up with a much healthier forest. Right now, this particular area was identified as a fire hazard area because it is directly adjacent to the city of Sturgis, and if you got a fire in there, the terrain, you couldn't fight it. You would just have to let it burn. So that's why they're going in, and that's why it jumped up from the Chimera into this topaz. There was a higher push to get that done. And then we have a window to get it done because of the endangered species, the long-eared bats and the tricolored bats and all of that stuff. So very good project, and I think that we're able to see it done in that short of a period of time versus years is a great thing. Hopefully, if all goes well and as planned, I mean, we should have all of our trails restored and back up and running, early next spring, late next spring, early summer, in time for the mountain bike series. So that's again a good positive.
Were the controlled burns part of this project, or?
This one has not done, not that I know of, any burns. So I think you're talking about the control burns on the BLM. Again, that was just their method. The BLM property traditionally doesn't have a lot of trees on it, so they use that as a fire mitigation method to burn that vegetation down. And then again, we hadn't even gotten any moisture, but you could see it was already starting to turn green really quick. So, I think this spring that stuff will really look nice. But that was the BLM, this is the Forest Service. So just happened to be in the same area. Again, that's just a map that shows those different colored areas in there are different logging techniques that they're doing. From some of the fire mitigation to the actual timber harvest and timber sales. Next up, I just want to give you an update on the RTP grant. Remember back in September of 2022, we got a notification from the governor that we had been selected for an RTP grant. We finally it's been a week, maybe 2 weeks ago, we got the final contract portion of that. So it's signed, done, all the environmental review has been done. We have that money. I'll be working with the Black Hills Trails groups to identify what those improvements will be. We have to use those funds by December 31st of 2024. So that grant was for trailhead improvements. The two trailheads that we had identified were the Vanacker Canyon Trailhead and the Veterans Peak Trailhead. The one downside to the Chimera project, if there is any, is that they're using the Vanacker Canyon Trailhead as a landing. So that's the one that's just beyond the spring or right before you go down into Grams or Galena. That trailhead there that accesses the dams, that is being used as a landing and is closed. So depending on when that project ends, it may be difficult to use any of that money for improvements on that trailhead. So we'll be really shifting our what we had anticipated probably to the Veterans Peak Trailhead being the primary one for the source of these funds, so that we're able to use those. But hopefully I can get with Sam and we can get a plan put together, and again, I'll be able to report back to you what that is. Other thing that we've been busy doing, just wanted to give you an update on our bike path projects. Last week I made a presentation to the Transportation Committee on the Moose Drive bike path. This is the Moose Drive bike path. It connects down into Dolan Creek, and then goes all the way up on the side in between Moose Drive and the interstate right-of-way fence. Follows that and then turns onto Raccoon and connects into the existing bike path that comes underneath of the interstate. Why that's so important is that offers us right now that entire or the majority of that area, there are no sidewalks. So, we see those kids walking, it's a direct path or a corridor to the school, to the ball fields, and they're walking in the street, and that's just simply not a safe place to do that. So this will be that connectivity that we're able to do. We'll be building an 8-foot path there. At the same time, we're going to redo a portion of Moose Drive. We're going to do some stormwater improvements, some curb and gutter and sidewalk, and some new paving. And if you're familiar with driving that, there's kind of some big dips. We'll be getting rid of those and piping that underground in storm sewer. So a really good project. We planned it purposely to do those both so that hopefully we bid them at the same time. We can get one contractor to do both, and we'll save on both projects. This is kind of down where it connects on the north side, like I said, down into that existing bike path, which heads to the school and the ball fields. We just completed a section of bike path on Dolan Creek Road, the new curb and gutter, the new road that goes to the west and then turns and goes down Hurley. That was one of the other bike paths or collector paths that was identified as part of our pedestrian comprehensive plan, bicycle comprehensive plan. Hopefully at some point in time that will continue on through the Marcotte and interconnect further on down the road on Otter. But we got to do these in small segments at a time. So that one did get completed. We're just finishing up the punch list items on that project. That was done in conjunction with the assisted living project. So again, we're always looking for ways where we can build on to other projects, and it saves everybody money to do those. Again, this is where just a kind of a view coming down off of that hill on Moose. You can see there's no sidewalks. There's no ADA improvements. We've got these really weird intersections in the Dead Man Addition that have these big sweeping curves. We'll change those and make some improvements on those as a part of that project as well. And then finally, it'll go down the hill and connect into our existing bike path. We will have to make a crossing across Bear Butte Creek, or Dead Man Channel, Dead Man Creek, that debris basin to connect into that existing bike path that's there. But overall, a really good project, a really needed project. The interview or the presentation on it went really well. We should hear, they thought, shortly after the first of the year whether or not we get approved for that grant. If we don't get that grant, there is probably a likelihood that that project would not happen. We have the city's portion of the funding anticipated, and it's in our 5-year CIP. But if we had to take on the whole cost of it, we don't have that, so it would have to be delayed at that point in time. But the process to get to where we're at now, we've already filled out the application. We've done site visits. Everybody has agreed that this is a good project and it meets the merits. So the likelihood of getting that grant is actually fairly high. So the other one that we're getting ready to put out is our Highway 14A bike path connector. This one, same project, same local transportation, alternative transportation grant. We put in for this one almost 2 years ago and did get it. So this is one where the plans are actually being done. They need to be submitted by the end of December, and then this will go out to bid this winter, and we'll start construction this spring. So what this does is this connects down here by Black Hills Gold on Moose Drive, and then goes out basically to the west, out to the trailer park. And provides a way for pedestrians and bicyclists to connect without having to cross Highway 14A. Again, a very needed part. We do have the bike path, as you can see, on the north side, but there's not a really good way to cross that. That is a state highway. And we do have some, some fairly fast speeds. 45 miles an hour is a pretty fast speed when you're trying to get across the road. So another good project. This one's actually happening. We'll be going out to bid here in the next 30 days or so, 60 days maybe, and then we'll be constructed this spring. And we did, finally, the other bike path that we did was the Vanacker one. That one is done as of now, out by the shop. Southwater shop and the animal control center. So definitely are putting a lot of assets into our bike paths and our pedestrians and making connectivity good things. So we should be fortunate. The city of Sturgis is fortunate to have that, because there's a lot of communities that don't, and then there's a lot of people that use them, whether it be walking or biking or whatever. So that's kind of everything that I have to give an update on under old business. Does anybody have any questions on any of those projects? New business, just a couple of things I wanted to touch base on. We don't really have any new business. I think that we will be in the near future. I know we just kind of ran out of time. I know that, like I said, the soccer association is putting together a proposal that they want to present to the park board and to the city council. I think we've got some plans to work with some of the other sports organizations. We're getting ready to do our memorandum of understandings on the facilities. When we do that each year in January, we ask them to put together their wish list of projects that they want done, repairs, improvements they want done to the field, and then we can get together and look at that and figure out what we have budgeted within our yearly budget, or if we have to put together more capital type projects. We're always looking at good ways to try and cooperate and do co-op projects with these groups. One example that we just put together here in the last few weeks, we had a local contractor get a hold of us, wanted to donate his time to re-side the crow's nest at the Strong Field. We had a business that donated the materials for that, so, you know, we got together, Cody and myself with them, and put together a plan where we can help tear off some of the old material, get it ready for them. They'll put it on. We'll do some painting. Again, at the end of the day, we have a new facility, or not a new facility, but we have a new facade on a facility that greatly needs it. The current siding that's on that building has got some hail damage, got some baseball damage, and it needs that. And again, a great project. We brought 3 different organizations, the baseball, this local contractor, the city, together to do a project that has little or no cost involved. It has some time involved on ours to do some work, but really no materials, no labor for the the contractors putting it on. So those are really great projects that we can do with those organizations, and we're always looking to try and do those. Some of the other things that we're doing, we're making some improvements to the community gardens. It is amazing how many people use the community gardens. Cody and his guys, we had a request from them this summer, and over the course of the winter, they poured a concrete pad already, and we're gonna put a shade shelter down in the main one at the city park, because they like to go down there and visit and have coffee, and they don't have a good place to get out of the sun while they're working. So again, they came to us and said, hey, is this something we can do? Can we? And you know, we said, well, you know, we maybe don't have the time to do it right now, but if you're, you know, we can probably have it done by next spring, by next growing season, if you let us do it over the winter. And you know, they were willing to provide some wood, and we said, well, let's do it in a manner that we don't have to be down there painting it all the time. So we're going to make a structure out of metal and have it painted once, and then put tin as a roof, and kind of look at a more of a maintenance free than having something that we have to paint all the time, or stain, or do whatnot. So again, we're always looking at those projects, and we hopefully see those groups get those lists to us, and that's everything from baseball to softball to soccer to different. We have 3 different baseball organizations. You know, and an ever-growing list. I heard rumors that maybe we'll have some kind of agreement with a pickleball organization, so we don't want to forget those folks, because I'm sure they're listening. We've heard you put together your plan and come see us so that we can put together a plan. You know, it's always hard for us to come up with solutions if we don't know what the problems are. We need these people to come to us, pick a spokesperson, or come to as an organization and present it, and then let us work through it to what the solutions are. So hopefully we can get some of those things done. It's not always a given on any of these projects. You know, one of the things that again, through the grapevine and through talking to some people, we heard loud and clear that they want to see some improvements done on the existing courts, and so we went and we looked at that, and we got a price and to do that, and what was that, basically $100,000 to concrete, you know, to resurface the existing tennis and pickleball courts. That's not something that I mean, it's not in the 2024 budget. So again, if we're going to do that, we either have to fundraise, or we have to put together a project that becomes, you know, and when we look at capital and projects like that, we're already 5 years out. So we've already got projects programmed for the next 5 years. So this one would either have to bump another project that's planned, or it would have to be further than 5 years out. So again, we got to get these together and put together a plan on how we can accommodate those, and like always, there's going to be a little bit of give and take, and I think we've brainstormed and come up with some good ideas that we'd like to present to those people, but we need those people to come and talk to us. So that's really all I have. Does anybody have any questions?
I have one question.
Go ahead.
Going back to the bike paths, is there any consideration for placing benches periodically along the path?
We do, and as we grow, as our bike path network grows, we will probably have, so typically those benches are memorial benches, and we do have designated areas where we've designated where to put benches, and when somebody wants to do a memorial, we give them, we're like, here's all the spots that are available if you want to pick them. And most of them are along our bike paths because you can only have so many benches in the city park or so many at the cemetery or wherever. We have to kind of spread them out. One of the things that we have to be cognizant of, like on the Highway 14A, we likely wouldn't have any because that still is DOT right away. Even though we have a bike path there, we can't always, I have to get a special permit anytime I work in there or to change a sign. Anything that we do, we have to get a permit from the DOT to do it because that is their right of way. So there are some complications to it. And then, quite simply, like if we're talking along the Van Acker bike path or something like that, most of everything to the backside where we would want to put a bench is private property. It's not city property. We wouldn't want to put them in between the road, the roadway, because again, we have to make sure that they're ADA accessible, and that boulevard typically that we have in between the bike path and the curb, we have that for a reason so that we can put snow there. We wouldn't want a windrow in a bench, so there are some considerations, but certainly we will have more of those areas. And Cody's done a good job. I'm like, hey, where did this bench come from? Where does this picnic table come from? I mean, he very cognizant of putting things like that out. You can see we added the ones on the way out to the high school. We've added the ones down, I know, by the Cell Barn property. Then there's some picnic tables down there now. Those guys did a good job of cleaning up that area that was about that tall, and now it's been all the rocks have picked and we're mowing it, and we've got picnic benches down there where people can stop, take a break. We typically put up the doggy stations there that have the poop bags and things like that as well. So absolutely, that's and we're always looking, on how we can take advantage of those things and create those opportunities for people to be able to rest and do a memorial. So
It'd be nice to have some of that at the city dams too.
yeah, that's one of the projects that has been identified, and I know the Black Hills Trails is working on that, and they've got spots picked out in that trail network. And again, we're not on city property, we're on U.S. Forest Service, and the dams, of course, is city property, but those benches that are similar to the ones that are up above the football field, and those are you pay for them bench, some kind of like a sponsorship type deal. So we do have an agreement with the Black Hills Trails on those benches up on those trails. So those are good things, and they do have them. If you go up and use the trails, I mean, all of a sudden you come around the corner and there's a bench. So pretty neat. With that, do we have any other matters that may become before the board?
I have one other question.
Go ahead.
Are we doing anything more with the rodeo grounds? Are we going to have rodeo grounds in the
So I was out there here just last week, and they're gravel. I mean, they've got everything built. They built the road and leveled everything out where the arena's going to go, and they've got all their work done. They actually were graveling the road last week. They have not approached the city anyways. We moved all of them. We helped them hauled all that sand out there, all of the panels, donated them some bleachers and different things. And I think they have full intentions of being up and running by June. They haven't asked us to do any more help from what we've already done, but would certainly be, I mean, we would consider it. It would have to fit in you know, with what our current workload is, but I think they have a plan on their own to be up and running, you know, in time for that. I think it's the first week of June when the high school rodeo is, the regionals. So, and really nice, they did a fantastic job. It's a very, very neat setting back there. So I think everybody will be pretty surprised. That, to the, of the Thunderdome, yes, that's the road into to where the rodeo arena will be. So, pretty neat place. Anyone else? Perfect. What time do we got? Geez, we're right on time. With that, we don't have any executive session items. We'd look for a motion to adjourn. Jeannie makes a motion. Karen seconds it. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody that opposes? All right, good job.
Frick, why'd you look at me?
Yeah. Enjoy your